Good morning. This is Sweetie Berry and the Women of Dare Whimsy at a show we call Between Us Girls. DareWhimsy.com is a community for creative and gifted women, and we're not gurus. We're not professionals that are just all that and a cup of coffee, but we are very clever women who live real lives as moms, as sisters, as cousins, as grandmothers, as professional women, as stay-at-home women, as work-at-home women. And we share our conversations about what it is to be a gifted thinker in a world, and a high creative in a world that doesn't always seem to be what we are. And, you know, that's okay. We're all different and we're all unique. This week we're going to be talking about how to pause, how to up your Periscope, and how to be present in your daily life. So many times gifted women and girls have an end result in mind, and they kind of lose the process of living that. And so I wanted to bring some conversation about how our friends at Dare Whimsy, how Between Us Girls, we make sure that we're fully present in our daily life and not just hyper-focused on outcomes or hyper-focused on whatever's in front of us or whatever we're interested in or passionate about at that moment. You know, so many times gifted girls get very passionate and very directed about a topic at a time, and we don't change gears very fast. And so I wanted to have something that said, let's pause. Let's put up our Periscope. Let's look around. Let's look at the jungle we are in called life and family and see how to be fully present more often in our daily lives. Good morning, ladies. I'm so glad to see you. I see that Miss Gail Roddy, the playwright from Minnesota, is with us, and Sarah L. Cook, who is an amazing systems trainer in California, and Bobby Smith, who is our children's ministry and children's activities as well as home-based goods expert. She's great at teaching you how to do things from home, whether that be creating your own home soaps or whether that be developing programs to make money from home. So welcome to everybody. Sarah, if you'd start us off today, I know you've done a lot of work on how to be fully present with your family. You've got little ones at home still, you own a business, you're an authoress, you have a husband who's an author, and even a child who's written a book. How do you work on being fully present in your space?
Well, one of the ways I work on being fully present is by setting timers of when I'm doing certain tasks, and that way I know, okay, it's time to move on, rather than getting so engrossed in the task I'm doing. It's very typical for me to go, full on and not take a break for a couple hours. But if I set timers, it allows me to say, okay, time's up on this task, it's time to move on to something else. I also block the distractions. If I'm working on writing, then my social media channels are completely turned off. My phone all the notifications are completely turned off. And that's really important. When I'm with my children, same thing. They need that attention. And so I don't have the computer with me or I don't have the phone with me. When I've made the mistake of bringing those two things together, time with family and time with work, then neither one of those things gets done really well. And there's a lot of frustration and there's resentment. I'm resenting the time I'm trying to work when they're, quote, interrupting. And they're resenting the fact that I have my work with me when they're wanting time with me. So learning to really focus on what you're doing right this second, and then taking care of boundaries to block the distractions from other influences that are not your present focus has been really, really helpful for me.
I love that. So many times it's the habits we get into, habits of checking for messages, the habits of answering that phone when we're supposed to be fully present with who we're with. One of our rules at our house is that when they come in from school, we turn off that phone and it's left at the front door until after family dinner, because they've already been influenced by their friends all day long. They've already been influenced by deadlines all day long, and I want them off deadline and off texting screens for a couple of hours. Now, when the kids were younger, we really managed their homework that way, that we said go out and play and go do things until dinner time, and then we need to get after it after dinner to get our homework done. And, as an adult, I need playtime too. And so now every single day at 3 o'clock, my phone goes off until 8 p.m. That's 5 hours of text-free living. Now, I'm not perfect at that yet. It's a brand new space for me. But I can tell you in just a few days this weekend and over the last few weeks where I was successful, that I didn't have an appointment that was pre-scheduled, that I could really turn it off and really ignore it. It was amazing. It was so good to be with my daughter when I flew in from Minnesota. I turned off the phone. We were together for 2 hours for brunch before she had to go to work. And we just talked. There was no interruption. There was no thought of who texted or what needed to be done or interruptions to my process of hearing her heart. And yeah, that's so important to be fully present with those that we care about and to be fully present with ourselves when we're doing tasks. Gail Roddy, you're just the best at this. You're one of my favorite people to talk to and to receive wisdom from because you're so aware of nurturing yourself and nurturing others. Share with us your wisdom about how are you fully present and how do you put that Periscope up and when do you know you need to?
Hi, sweetie. Hi, ladies. Um, Sarah brought up an excellent point about the timer, and Sarah, you've got me thinking I really need to do that. As a gifted girl, I've got schedules in my brain, I've got times in my brain, but I really need a little machine that would do that for me because it just makes it easier and more effective to actually have something. Sarah, I take it rings when the hour is done or whatever, and so I really need something like that. But it's kind of been scaring me lately, and I've made a commitment September 1st, which of course was yesterday, is to really cut back on the social media because everywhere you go, I'm sure everyone can relate to this. You see people who are on social media, they're in a group, you see them at the restaurants, the coffee shop. No one is communicating with one another. Everyone is on their phone. And it's getting really kind of scary, and especially when you're out driving and you see people on their phones and they're texting. So I've made the commitment that I am going to really, really be observant of that. Cut back on the social media, make it a specific time because it's an abyss that once you get started, you can just get lost in it and look up and it's 3 hours later. So I've made the commitment September 1st to be really aware of that. And I think I'm going to get a timer, as Sarah said, so that I can time specific spaces during the day. I work out of my home, and for those of us who do work out of our home, you know how it's so easy to get distracted. I can come down from my office to get something, and I'll notice, the plants need watering. I better do that right now. And so then the next thing, it's some other task that really does need to get done, but it doesn't need to get done at that moment. I need to stay focused on what I came down to the living room to get and to go back up to my office and continue on. So, sweetie, as you said, it's a work in progress. I'm still working on it. I know there'll still be 2 steps forward and 3 steps back for a while, but I've made that commitment September 1st to make changes in my own life. And I encourage everyone else, as we're doing on the show today, put that Periscope up and just check things out and take a look at what is really going on. Because I'm sure if you're like me, we really do need to take a look and make some changes for the better.
I love that you're saying that you're looking at your time in a different way. As a strategist, one of the things I really talk to people about is how are they using the time they have. Because the one common denominator of every human on the face of the earth is you only have 25 hours a day. And I personally believe as a strategist that even if you're the most high executive or the lowest street washer, which there is no high and low on that, just the level of income job, bottom line, 16 hours to 20 hours a week is the maximum load anyone can work in a job and be terribly productive. If you're working 21 to 40 to 60 hours, you're probably not working in your gifts and your talents. You're probably working tasks, and maybe tasks that would be better served by someone else. One of the hardest lessons of my continual life is to throw up the Periscope and to look around at where I am. I'm 51 years old. And at 51, there are some tasks that I've outgrown and my younger children need to be able to be responsible for. And likewise, there in my organization are some tasks that my assistant, my executive assistant, and the people on my team that have specialty skills need to be responsible for. I love doing graphic arts, and it's an enjoyment for me, and I can recognize that and do it because I do. But likewise, I also have a graphic artist on our staff, and it should be her responsibility to do most of what needs to be done because that's her expertise. It's okay for me to do it, But if it eats into my daily lifetime, it's no longer part of the job. That's a hobby. And if it's a hobby, it has a limit. The time that we spend on people, on places, on things, is what makes a meaningful life. Are you spending the time, are you investing the time that matters most to you where you want it to be invested? You guys know that I'm an overworker, and so I've had to really, really look at boundaries. And one of my boundaries has been to have hard stops. I can always have the mercy seat. I have the gift of mercy, which means I feel really terrible when somebody else doesn't take responsibility for themselves. You know, one of the things that has been a weakness for me has been the Periscope on favor. Can you do me a favor? You know what? I have a new understanding of what favors really are when they're asked from all the time. That's failure about valuing our responsibility. When we're asking for favors all the time, we have failed to value our responsibility. And you know, favors are great when you have a disaster. Like last week, I flew in from Minnesota and I was suddenly getting in at 2 instead of at midnight. That happens rarely, but it really happens. And in that situation, it's absolutely right to call someone to make sure your children are okay and picked up from school or whatever needs to happen. But if you're living in a space where the favors are asked for daily, the favors are interrupting your schedule, that's because they're failing to realize the opportunity of their responsibility, and you need to say no. Because when you say yes to that, what you've really said is, I don't value myself. And you know what? The truth is also you don't value them, because that's saying that they're not capable of doing what's required to do to be a success in the world. Just like parenting, sometimes our business relationships get full of out-of-bounds space. Mine has certainly gone through a complete remarkable recovery the last 6 months from being into overworking, over-yesing, and over-responsibility for others' choices. Kristen, I'm so excited to have you with us today.
Hello.
So good to see you. Talk to us about how it is that you have started to pause and throw up your Periscope to see what's really important about where you want to place your perspective.
Well, I loved what Gail was saying, because I get that with the distraction, and I know I need to do this. Well, there's a couple things. And then also what you said, sweetie, was yes, I know I need to do this, but I'll stop and do something totally unrelated, because I'm creating a distraction in my own life and my own mind, and I realize that I do that now. Like I really need to do this, so I'll do 7 other things that are completely unnecessary at the time, and I do that. I've caught myself that I do that all the time, and that is one thing that I'm really, really working on. And also, it's really funny you said that, Gail, because I also, as of September 1st, I said I'm taking September, these next 30 days, to work on me and work on what I need to do. I am going to be walking every single day. I'm going to be having a smoothie for breakfast instead of a Pop-Tart. I'm going to be having I'm going to start doing, I want to start getting more into myself with some prayer and meditation, where I can get quiet and calm my mind, which that sometimes is a struggle for me to do. Is I also like Sweetie said, I'm an overworker, and it was just funny because what both of you ladies said, it like hit home, because I caused distractions for myself. I'm going to be working on myself, like Gail, and then what Sweetie said was just to, taking the time to figure out what is important and what I need to do. So this is really funny, because all of these things I've put the Periscope on myself, and I'm really knowing what I need to do. And I also realize that sometimes I create, when I don't, sometimes I do all the time, and I know I create busy for myself, because I feel if I'm not working 1,000 hours a week, I'm not working. I'm not working towards something. So this is really, all of these things are really hitting home for me today, because these are things that I really need to work on. And so this is a great topic.
I love that. And Bobby is with us, and it's so good to have both of you girls back. It's been schedules where everybody couldn't be there for a while. Bobby moved, and she just moved to a new space, just created her new office space yesterday. I was so excited to see that the boxes are unpacked and you're really ready to be there. But you're a busy lady. You teach at the college level, you teach in local community levels, you teach at church. How do you possibly throw up the Periscope to realize you're over-focused on things and not taking care of yourself?
Well, I think my health has been the biggest one for this year. The other house that we were living in had some issues, and I got very unhealthy. And I just pushing and pushing and pushing. Oops, sorry. Phone had to ring at that time. But I just kept pushing whenever I shouldn't have been. And I realized that if I didn't take care of me first, then all the other balls I had in the air were all going to fall. And they did, every last one of them. And so then I had to learn that I had to pick up the pieces. And it's like we were talking about earlier, that timer. I have a timer now, and I have it set. And I also have to schedule the times that I work on me. I've got to put that into my schedule, because if I don't, then me doesn't get taken care of. And so I put me first. Well, actually, I put God first and then me second. And then all the other tasks have to be scheduled. And I set certain time amounts for writing and certain time amounts for sewing and certain time amounts for working on what I'm going to be teaching. And taking all of those little bitty chunks, you know, make it so much easier than trying to eat the elephant all at one time. I eat it one bite at a time. And that's what's been important this year for me.
I love that, because you know our health really does express whether we're doing self-care or not. One of the things that we all have to learn the hard way, and I don't know a single human who doesn't, is awareness of ourselves, our body, and our thinking. You see, when we're in unawareness, we can keep throwing down those cheeseburgers, we can keep drinking that carbonated beverage, we can over-sugar, and we don't even recognize there's a problem. But the day that you flare in anger at your children because you've had too much sugar, you know, sugar is just, it amplifies whatever's there. So if you're sad, you get sadder. If you're happy, you get happier for a little bit till the sugar crash hits, and then you get sadder. If you're angry, it will unleash a lion in you. I used to say the mad woman comes out if I'm sugared up when frustration hits. But we become aware of that, then we can make different choices. And we're not going to be perfect at it. That's not the goal. Everybody has good days and bad days. But the awareness that your life should be a peaceful existence is news for a lot of people. You know, I do a lot of things, but typically I'm not running on wild all the time anymore. I'm a very fast-driven tasker. I think fast and I can complete things quickly, but I'm at peace if they're scheduled and there's breaks. You know, I used to feel very guilty for needing a break because I felt like that was laziness. And I really prided myself. I had a lot of pride on the fact that I didn't require that. And someone helped me to realize that I value the strength of overexertion and exhaustion. And now I value peace. And peace in my heart, peace in my mind, and peace for processes. So that if I have to bounce out to go on an airplane ride or to go speak somewhere, that someone else has the ability to be me. I'm repeatable, I'm replaceable in my life at home, but that only comes when you have processes in place to do so. I don't want my family to suffer because I travel. I don't want my business to suffer if I'm the only one that's the linchpin for success. So every system I build now is set up to be a system. And you know what? A definition of a system is it's turnkey for anyone to do the same things and get somewhat the same results. Other than that, it's a one-man solo act show, sage on the stage, which will not only bankrupt your life, it will bankrupt your business too. Girls, I see everybody nodding their head a lot. So I think this Paul's Periscope, you know, I was thinking about you, Kristen, because you have this wonderful new show, and it's on Periscope, which is a new app that works with Twitter, and it's so fun to know that you're doing that. But the Periscope we're talking about today is that stop your life, put your neck up, look around, look in the mirror, see who you are, because who you are today is not who you were at 5 years of age. It's not who you were at 21 years of age. It's not who you were at 28 years of age. It's not who you were when you had little children or chose not to have children. It's today. And sometimes we just need to take some time to write down, what do I do well and what do I enjoy doing? That's one of the pauses for me this year with all of my clients, to say, work to your strengths. Define your strengths. What do you love doing? Not just can do, do well. What do you love doing? What music do you love listening to? What clothes feel great when you put them on? What do you love in your daily life? And why aren't you doing more of it? Why aren't you allowing that to be a place from where you come daily? And why aren't you starting to understand that you are an adult and you have choices, and choosing is a choice? I really want to encourage you to put your Periscopes up today. I want you to look around and see, gosh, that's working, and gosh, that's not working. I have a list right now. The list is called Activities That Energize Me. I can get on the phone with Dr. Edith Johnston, and let me assure you, I get off excited because we work with gifted children and we work with gifted adults. And anytime we're creating together, it is a gas. I loved to work with the girls at Dare Whimsy. Every single one of them bring value to my life, and I get off the phone and I'm energized about whatever projects they're in and whatever projects we're in together. And likewise, I have some other folks in my life that I value and I care about and I love, but they're on what I call postcard-only processes. They're getting emails, and they're getting mail from me, and they're getting invitations. You know why I call it postcard-only? Because I'm only going to invite them to places where other people are. Because one-on-one, they're draining. One-on-one, they're sad stories. One-on-one, they're going to be in a soap opera of called Pity Me, Poor Me, and I'm going to buy into it because I have this mercy heart. And so now they have invitation only. In other words, they can only go with me if I'm going to the movie or if I'm going to church or if I'm going someplace where there are other women to deflect that negativity. I don't want to X them out of my life. I don't want them to be left behind. I want them to have some enriching experiences and some socialization experiences so maybe they can get past their isolated thinking. Because, man, gifted girls get in isolation and we convince ourselves we like it there, and then our stinking thinking just starts. Sarah, can you share with us about that? We've seen it in our sales team in Mary Kay. We've seen it in our sales team with other women entrepreneurs. How do you handle that as a leader?
Well, I think one of the most important things as a leader is to check your own thinking, because often we attract to ourselves people that mirror how we are thinking ourselves. So check your own thinking would be the first thing. And then often you can kind of diffuse some of that stinking thinking by asking questions. So if they say, oh my goodness, nothing ever happens to me that is great. I say, really, nothing? Nothing ever happens to you great? So when you charge, not really charge, when you question the belief that is erroneous, or for example, I'll give an example with my children when they say, oh my goodness, there's nothing to eat. I'll say, really? There's nothing to eat? And then they say, oh, well, there's something to eat. I just, they're often negative thinkers are in an all or nothing kind of space where there's no options supposedly to fix things. And so when you question the extremes with them, then they have to answer that for themselves. Well, maybe I do get some things, maybe I do have some appointments on my date book. Maybe there is something to eat. And so that's one thing. I also question the statement. For example, one of my children has been saying, I'm so tired, I'm so tired. And really what that statement is, I'm so bored, there's nothing to do, and it's making me feel tired because I haven't figured out how to find something to do with myself, and you should entertain me, Mom. And so that statement of asking, do you really want the outcome of what you're saying to yourself? Do you really want to feel so tired? If someone says, I'm so broke, well, do you really want to feel so broke? Or would you like something different in your life? Because if you want something different in your life, then you really might consider not saying, I'm so broke. And that has been the case for me when I used to say those kinds of things. I'm so broke, I'm so tired, I'm so whatever. And I had a mentor that says, wow, that's so unlike you to say that. And that statement to me of that's so unlike you to say that started this pattern interrupt. And so then even if she wasn't around, as I was talking to myself, I'd say, wow, someone would probably say to me, that's so unlike you to say that. And so I would say, Sarah, that's so unlike you to say that. And I stopped the broke conversation by focusing on that, but I also stopped that broke conversation by going and getting $100 you know, I had to sell some extra product that week, but I got $100 and I put it in my wallet. And I can never say that. That's a lie. If I say that to myself, I'm so broke, it's a complete flat out lie because I have $100 all the time in my wallet. So there's lots of ways that we can diffuse those negative comments, but we first have to look in the mirror and really consider, as a leader, what are we saying? What are we projecting? What are we allowing in our communication, in our thoughts, and in our actions that are stinking thinking and stinking ways of living?
You're so right, Sarah. 'Cause I love hearing you talk about this because it is about the stinking thing. You know, Zig Ziglar used to say we need a checkup from the neck up. And I constantly say your success is between your ears. You know, one of the things that I really believe is that we assign emotions to arbitrary things. We assign emotions to arbitrary things. And when we run up the Periscope and reconsider and pause, it's not what we think it is. Some people do this to money. I assure you money doesn't have any power. It's not magical. It doesn't fly off the desk by itself. It doesn't spend itself, nor does the postman bring it with a magical potion. But the way we think about money can really trap us. It can really be like a sorcerer's trick. It can keep us in a locked prison if we think we're not worthy of it, if we think it's always going to go down the drain, if we think that it's beyond what we can have. Man, whatever we think, we assign to that, and guess what? Our minds absolutely obey our spirits. So if you're saying that to yourself, then your mind has to obey your spirit, and it will do whatever it can to make that true in your life. I love to say I'm shrinking as I speak. Sure enough, the days I say I'm shrinking as I speak, I eat less, I exercise more, and I drink my water. I just went on a trip, and very often when I go on a trip, I will eat everything wrong in the space. I mean, everything wrong. I go to these cities, they have bakeries, they have beautiful stuff. But this week, they had everything wrong in the space, and I even had it on my plate. And I picked it up and took a bite and thought, nope, I'm not interested in that. It's not going to give me the outcome that I want. And the truth is, I have attached that food is a fun thing for a long time. And food can be fun. Gathering and fellowship's fun. But eating food that's not good for me, that's not fun. It's not even a treat. What I'm doing is choosing something that makes me unhappy with my weight. So when I ran up the Periscope this time and paused, I thought, looks good. Might be okay to have as a treat, but I'd really rather have cheesecake. And that's exactly what I did later that weekend. I bought the treat that I really wanted and enjoyed it thoroughly because it was a special treat. I don't have that restaurant at home. I don't have the ability to do it at home. And I was okay with that because it was a choice. I had paused, I had thought about it, and I made a plan of action to be present with where I was, which was with good friends and cheesecake, and it was fun. Today, we're asking you to look at your perspectives. Are you so close to stress that you're only seeing the answers you can see? You know, the answer for that is time out. It's also time to put it on paper for some of us. We need to put on paper what we're saying to ourselves and say, is that true? Am I too busy to XYZ? And what I'm too busy doing needing to be rearranged so I can do what I really want to with my life, because this is the only life you have. Kristen has this whole thing called Create a Pretty Life, and she has a byline that I just love, and I don't know if she'll share it with us yet because it's a new project, but it's the most powerful thing because it really puts it where it is. Kristen, you want to share?
I do. Yes. Yes. I do want to share. Yes, I am working on Create a Pretty Life, and what that means, of course, is a pretty life. It is everything about your life, and it's about you. And the tagline is, "It's your life, live it." So it's all about you, how you want to live your life. So Create a Pretty Life, it's your life, live it, is my passion. It's what I'm working on, and I am so excited about it because it just finally feels like everything is coming together, and this is just so right in my life, and it is so exciting to talk to women and ladies about this because it's such a big deal. It's your life, and we are sometimes not living it because we're putting things off because we feel as though we don't have enough, or we are overweight, or we are less than, and we don't live our lives. And it's so sad because we only have one life, and if you're not, you have to go live it. So that's what Create a Pretty Life is all about, and I am so excited about it. Thank you, sweetie.
Well, I'm glad that you're with us today because it is part of what we talk about in Dare Whimsy of how to make your life your own, how to make your life work in a way that works for your most meaningful life. And that's different for every single one of us. Some of us are artists, some of us are speakers, some of us are orators, some of us are organizers, some of us are systems analysts. We all have different lives. We're different ages, we're different spaces, we're different talents and gifts. But the thing we share in common is we only have this 24 hours and this day. We're not promised tomorrow, and yesterday is already gone. It's our time is up. We don't even have time to popcorn, but let me assure you that we are popcorning this conversation over at darewhimsy.com. Every week on Thursday morning, we put up a post along with this video, this show, that reminds you what we had to say, because some of you are working during the day, some of you don't have time in the middle, or maybe your child's up that time. It gives you a way to go watch the show at different hours than 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning. And then we each write what we call the sister post, our own personal perspective of whatever the topic is that week. And we hope that you'll follow us home to our blogs and our businesses if it resonates with you. And we hope that you'll comment so we can follow you home to your blog or business too. We're also on social media at facebook.com/darewhimsy. And we have a Google Plus page where our videos are all, and we have a YouTube channel where our Google things are there, as well as our YouTube videos. We look forward to being with you next week. Again, this is Sweetie Berry and the Women of Dare Whimsy with Between Us Girls. We'll see you next week. Thanks for coming.